Hi, this is IK. Welcome to the developer. You are a React Redux architect. Part 2. Example number 2. Again counter, but now input box. Input box is for input value, adding value. 5, what we write, 5, 8, 25, or minus add. In last video, we have this kind of counter, decrement, increment, 2 buttons, and every button, click in button, we have dispatch of action. And what is different between this adding value by input box and example number 1? Different is what we know value, what is value known. Decrement is by 1, increment is by 1. But here we don't know adding value. Adding value is what user type here in user in input box. Here it is a code. Here we have increment, but look at state.value. State value plus number 1. We see here value. Value is 1. Value is known because here is only state. There is no action like here. Here is state action because state value plus action.payload. Payload is what we type in input box, and we don't know what user will type in input box, and it is payload. It is variable payload. And let's go here. Again, architecture. Architecture is import first. Look at this code, think about them, look at, think, look at, try to understand, listen video, and you understand. But now, second phase is take experience in coding. You must code this script closed eye. And let's go. First part is import. What we need here, something new, is we need use state. Use state is a hook. It is function. Use state is hook. As use selector and use dispatch and increment by amount. News here from last video is this statement, and name of action is increment by amount. It is from counter slice. Use state is from React. Use selector, use dispatch is from React Redux because they connect React Redux. Use state we use only local in component, in React component, because it is from React. But use selector and use dispatch connect Redux and React because it is from a module React Redux. And increment by amount is from counter slice. Counter slice is all about Redux, only Redux. And after import, we look at architecture. Architecture. Developer, you are architect. Your occupation is architecture. And how we learn architecture? We learn architecture that we learn that look at in this screen and look at what we repeat in our coding. Before was first import. Here it is. Input what we need. Import, import, import. After that, export. Export function name. And in curly brackets, in body of that function, is all coding what we need to see web pages with features. What we need? We need, first part is declare variable. Declare variable. And prepare that variable for next part. It is return. Return in parentheses of return. We have language JavaScript extension language. It is language mix of HTML and JavaScript. And that language, with that language, we script web page with features. What features? Counter features. Concretely, here is a variable count. It is count as before. Use selector, and in parameter is arrow function, parameter state, and in body of arrow function is state counter value. It is count, and we will see that on top of the page. Second declaration is declaration object dispatch. Dispatch equal function use dispatch, and we have after that we have dispatch as a method of store. Dispatch will be function what take action and give it reducer. Dispatch, and it is as before. Now we must declare, we must have this structure assign. This structure assign. This structure assign. Google that. But I say you here, look at, we have here two variables. Constant, we declare two variables. Usually, it was that we declare one variable. You look at, we declare one variable equal, and right side is assign value. Left side is variable, right side of equation is value. We assign, we said we assign a value to variable. Or we instantiate, but here is assign important because we call this the structure assignment. The structure assignment. The structure assignment is when we, it is possible after last JavaScript 6 version. It means that we declare two variables, increment amount and set increment amount. And it is possible because of Hooke's use state. It is parameter is initial value of input, what we see in input box. Repeat. Constant declaration of two variables in one statement is possible after version JavaScript 6, is possible thanks to use state. And now, after that, we have two variables, increment amount and set increment amount. And we will see what will do, what will happen, that what kind of that variable, and for what we use it. And because increment amount is value, is amount what we type in input box. What we type in. But when we type in input box, that value is string. It is not number, it is string. Every data from input box is string, not number. And because of that, we create here a variable increment value equal and assign function number, and in parameter go increment amount, or these two sign means or. It is right side is expression or logical expression, or would be number or nothing. And increment value is increment amount, but number, not string, because we need number. We use that data, that increment amount, and after that increment value, we use for adding, for math operation adding. And string is not number, and we cannot add that. It is excellent what we have in one statement, declare what we can declare in one statement, declare and assign. We give name and assign. What assign? Assign function, use state with parameter 2. And because of that, it is destruction assignment. And here is a return. In return, we write JavaScript extension language. HTML element, h1, count, here it is, variable count, it is state value, last state value, what we look at in the page, and here is input, and after that button add amount. Input, there is a value increment amount. This is input value. Increment amount. And attribute, input here, there is two attribute. It is input is HTML element, and there is argument, not attribute. Argument, but we can say attribute also. Why not? Or properties. But we say properties for React element. And React element, there is a big capital case begin with capital case, but here is a small case input HTML element, and is not properties value on change, not properties, but argument. Argument value equal assign right side increment amount. Argument on change is also JavaScript event on change, and that argument and that JavaScript event on change equal arrow function in curly brackets, because all exist. Curly brackets is because all exist. It is a statement. It is arrow function. And E variable here coming from event. And set increment amount, look at what is set increment amount. Second variable coming here, and that variable is function. Now we see that is function. Parameter of that function is event. There is properties. Event is object. There is a properties target, and there is a target. There is a properties value. Set increment amount value. Look at what is value. It is value. And all what we type in input, use state hooks what function of use state? Function of use state is change value by immutable. Mutate value by immutable kind. And use state can do that. And he do that here. Set increment amount, that function. There is a parameter value of input box, because on change is argument of that input box, and the value is about increment amount, about value. And on change, what means on change? When we click in input box, it is focus. When we get out from input box, it is blur. On change means, on change is event when we get out from input box. On change. Here it is. Now it is focus. We are input cursor is in input box. But now when I click out, it is on change. It is blur. It is on change. And that moment when I got out, use state change value, mutate value by immutable kind. It is properties. It is characteristic of hooks use state, and use state give us two variable, and one of that variable is value, and the second is set values. Here we are set increment amount. One is increment amount, a second is set increment amount. And change value in input box by immutable kind. And now when we have a value, it is locally, it is use state work local, and that use state that hooks change value of HTML element. Change, but on immutable kind of changing. And the waiting that we click on the button. Button is here. When we click on the button, what happen? Use dispatch, object dispatch, function dispatch. In one video, I will speak about why I said object dispatch, why I said function dispatch. Separate video I speak about that. It is something what can beginners to be very, very confused. And button, again, we have event on click, it's a JavaScript event. And button is HTML element. And argument of element is on click equal arrow function, argument nothing, and in body of arrow function we have a method dispatch. It is a store method of store, and parameter is increment by amount. Increment by amount is action creator, and parameter of increment by amount is increment value. This is increment value. Increment value. And when we click on the button, dispatch take increment by amount action, and with parameter increment value, take it, dispatch take it and give it to reducer that action. And reducer input to reducer, second input is state, original old state. And after input original state and action on reducer, output of reducer would be new state, and new state user selector assign it to count. What we see here about architecture. Architecture first is understand. Second is architecture. And the third is syntax. Third is closed eye write that code. But write code, it is a syntax. It is grammar of language, and we must experience that, exercise that. And okay, let's go. Architecture. Architecture is here in front of you on the table is white paper. You take pen, and on white paper you write. At first, layout, import. You write import. After import, we have export. And inside that function, first declare a variable, what we need. And second part is return, JavaScript extension. And write web page, write HTML and JavaScript. Write what we want to see on the web page. To see and feature what we want to have, what feature we want to have in that HTML document. Here it is, HTML document. we must see input box and button add amount and button. And we must see this is variable count. We must see state. We want to see state of this counter. It is what we see, what we want to see. But what feature? Feature is adding, add payload. And this is payload. This is payload. On change, add amount. And architecture is like this. Architecture is like story. Begin, middle, and end of the story. Like we must have layout of architecture, and we write import, what we need import, export function, and in body of export function, at first declare and assign value and initiate that declare variable and initiate that variable, and after that use that variable in return in this language. And close the eye by hand and you try imagine that architecture. I closed the eye and I spoke, okay, in import, after that export function, name function, and in curly brackets all what we need. First declare variable, and second is return. And when you repeat that sometimes, let's go write every statement by statement. And you write on the paper, import React, use state, React. We must make accent. We don't need, after statement, we don't need this. And I am just last month in transition when I go to not write semicolon after statement. Because of that you see that semicolon, and somewhere see, somewhere not, because there is some older code and the new my code. It is developer, and I'm not developer. I am teacher for the teacher, professor to the developer. It is big difference. But I like also not do what I don't need. Yeah, okay. But no long time ago, I said my students write that semicolon. It is better, but maybe better for beginner. Architecture, and because of architecture, you can imagine software in your head. Imagine import, export function, declare variable, return. And that is imaginable. And what is imaginable, it is possible to learn, to remember, to experience a lot of time and work it part with closed eye. But I said in last video, I repeat again, architecture is kind of architecture is writing code that everybody in your team and you, after 1 year, 2 year, or 100 year, can sit down, look at and understand, can find error because no architecture, because your team at first, when starting produce some software, they agree about architecture. And after that, every of them write same architecture. Every of them can sit on the table of the colleague and write and continue to do his job if needed. And contrary, architecture. And without architecture, it would be spaghetti code. Spaghetti code, what nobody on the world know what happened inside. Nobody can find error, debug that. Not author also. Author 1 hour again, 5 minutes again. It is like dreaming. You don't know, repeat what you dream 5 minutes ago, 10 minutes ago. It's same spaghetti code. You write variable, block, function, variable object. What you need, you write. But there is no organization. Architecture is organization. Architecture, you know past and you know history, you know past time and you know future of that script. Past of that script, future of that script, present of that script. Okay, it is architecture. The developer, you are architect. Good luck with learning. Learn architecture and learn writing code, learn syntax, and take experience. Take experience. When you go to interview, you don't know all, you don't know 50%, you don't need know 10%, but you must know good, understandable that what you know. I know that and demonstrate that. In interview, that you don't go around, you can say, I know that, and I want to demonstrate you in 5 minutes and create some architecture and some part, explain that part, explain that you understand, and write it that you know right by architecture, and it is good syntax of that. It would be saving time for both sides in interview. But all that will show interviewer, your other side of interview, employer, will show how you learning, how you understand, how you learning. You know what is architecture, you know grammar and syntax for that part of the code, and you know with your word, explain what you do, what it means. Because today in team team working is very, very important communication. and I think on communication of learning, that you can help your colleague, help explain, that you can help, that you can learn, that you can explain some part of the code your colleague. Explain that colleague understand how you explain it. Okay, share your video. If you like, you can comment. You can engage in this video on many on some. You can like, also dislike. All what you engage in this video help me, like author, and help other who coming here and look at this video. Subscribe if you like, and share it in your social channel. It's all. See you in next example of Redux React architecture, part 3. For now, thank you for watching this video.